Welcome to today's deep dive. I want you to picture rolling up to a dealership to buy a highly practical, fairly sensible six-seater family SUV.
Right, the kind of car you take to soccer practice.
Exactly. But the salesperson walks you around this very sleek piece of metal and just casually mentions that it comes with a built-in, factory-integrated DJI drone launching pad.
Just mounted directly on the roof.
Yeah, directly on the roof. And while you are trying to process the legality of deploying a surveillance aircraft from your daily commuter, they add that the onboard AI is actively analyzing the vocal frequencies of your passengers.
Which is completely wild.
Right, so when it detects your toddler talking from the backseat, it dynamically dumbs down its vocabulary to a kindergarten level. I mean, it sounds like a rather cynical pitch for a cyberpunk movie vehicle.
Or a very expensive video game prop.
Yeah. But we are looking at a real vehicle today. The 2026 BYD Denza N8L. It is a plug-in hybrid luxury SUV that is, frankly, currently triggering a very real existential crisis in the boardrooms of legacy automakers around the globe.
And the irony underlying all of this space-age, somewhat dystopian technology is the window sticker.
Oh, the price is the best part.
It really is. You are getting an automotive package that outspecs European flagship SUVs, but for a price that barely covers the dealer markups on some of those Western rivals, we're looking at a starting price equivalent to roughly $42,000 to $44,000 US.
Which is just nuts.
It is a number that seems entirely divorced from the hardware you are receiving.
Absolutely. So we have a comprehensive stack of sources to pull from for you today. We are looking at video test drives and reviews from YouTube channels like Wheelsboy, Auto and Moto, Review Car, and The Ride and Place.
Great visual references in those.
Definitely. And to balance those impressions with hard engineering facts, we are cross-referencing those videos with technical articles from XCar Space, a highly detailed and rather obsessive Denza Club forum discussion, and the vehicle's official Wikipedia page.
The forum discussions always find the hidden details.
They really do. So the mission for this deep dive is to strip away the marketing gloss and figure out exactly why this SUV has the industry sweating so much. We're going to unpack the frankly absurd performance numbers, scrutinize the digital ecosystem, and determine if the N8L is a true paradigm shift or just a collection of very clever electronic parlor tricks.
To understand the panic this vehicle is causing, you have to look closely at the sheer audacity of the engineering relative to the cost. I mean, legacy automakers have spent decades conditioning buyers to accept that specific performance metrics and luxury features require a six-figure entry fee.
A massive premium.
Exactly. And BYD is systematically dismantling that pricing structure through extreme vertical integration. They build their own batteries, their own electric motors, and their own software architecture.
Which brings us right into the absurd numbers game. Let's start with power and speed.
The fun stuff.
Right. You are looking at a 5.2-meter long, six-seater family hauler. It weighs roughly 3 tons.
That is an immense block of steel and lithium.
An absolute tank. Yet it goes from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 3.9 seconds.
Just mind-boggling for a vehicle that size.
To put that in perspective for you, this grocery getter has more than double the horsepower of an entry-level V6 Range Rover. It hits 100 kilometers per hour in almost half the time, and it does it for roughly a quarter of the price.
It makes traditional performance metrics look genuinely hilarious.
It really does. So how exactly is a 3-ton family vehicle achieving supercar acceleration?
Well, it relies on BYD's new Yisanfeng E3 platform. They haven't just bolted a big motor to the axles, they've engineered a highly complex hybrid architecture.
Right, it's not a simple setup.
Not at all. They pair a 2.0-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine with 3 separate electric motors. You have the combustion engine and 1 electric motor driving the front, and then dual independent motors driving the rear axle.
But, and this is interesting, as we synthesize the data for you, we did hit a notable discrepancy in the sources regarding the actual power output.
Yeah, that was a pretty glaring difference.
The YouTube reviewers and the technical breakdown on XCar Space cite a combined system output of 762 horsepower. However, the official Wikipedia page claims a staggering 955 horsepower combined output.
That is a near 200 horsepower delta.
Right. You would think someone would notice if an extra Volkswagen Golf's worth of power was just missing.
It speaks to the chaotic speed of Chinese automotive releases and varying measurement standards. But whether it is 762 or 955, the reality remains unchanged. It is an excessive, entirely unnecessary amount of power for a vehicle ostensibly designed to take the kids to school.
Entirely unnecessary, but incredibly fun. And the numbers get even more interesting when we look at the range and efficiency, because this isn't just a thirsty performance tank.
No, it's actually incredibly practical.
The sources highlight a claimed 1,300-kilometer combined range. If you isolate the electric side, it utilizes a 46.99 kilowatt-hour blade battery that provides a 230-kilometer pure electric range on the CLTC cycle.
For the average driver, this effectively deletes range anxiety.
Completely. It operates as a pure EV for the daily commute, the school runs, the errands. But for a cross-country trip, the combustion engine kicks in. And that engine boasts a thermal efficiency of over 44%, operating seamlessly as a generator to feed the electric motors.
The dual-nature powertrain is really the ultimate pragmatic solution for the current market.
Because charging is still an issue.
Exactly. The charging infrastructure for pure EVs is still highly variable depending on your region. A vehicle that provides enough electric range for 90% of your daily life, but retains a combustion engine capable of carrying you 1,000 kilometers down the highway without a forced 40-minute coffee break at a charging station.
It's a very compelling proposition.
It really is.
Yeah.
But straight-line speed and battery efficiency aren't even the most mind-bending feats here.
No, the physics of how this 5.2-meter behemoth handles its own weight is the real story. That brings us to the dimensions and the handling. Again, it is 5.2 meters long, that's longer than a BMW X7, and it's 2 meters wide.
A massive footprint on the road.
Right. By all standard laws of automotive physics, navigating a tight parking garage in this should feel like trying to pilot a commercial barge. Yet the spec sheet lists a turning radius of 4.58 meters.
That is tighter than a subcompact Mini Cooper.
I was looking at the footage from Auto and Moto, and this massive SUV just magically shrinks in tight spaces. How are they cheating the geometry here?
It comes down to those dual independent rear motors combined with aggressive rear wheel steering.
The hardware is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Immense lifting. Because the two rear wheels are not mechanically linked by a traditional differential, the motors can vector torque with absolute precision. The N8L performs what BYD calls compass turns, or pirouettes.
Pirouettes in a 3-ton SUV.
Literally. The computer can lock one of the front wheels in place, applying opposing torque to the independent rear wheels, and pivot the entire 3-ton body around that single locked wheel.
So you can execute a complete U-turn on a narrow, single-lane dirt road without resorting to an agonizing 5-point turn.
Exactly. It also features an intelligent crab walking mode, which allows all 4 wheels to angle in the same direction, letting the vehicle glide diagonally into parallel parking spots.
It is like watching a rhinoceros perform classical dressage. It shouldn't be possible, but there it is.
That's a great image.
However, with 3 tons of mass capable of hitting 100 kilometers an hour in under 4 seconds, stopping becomes a matter of life, death, and physics. The braking figures stand out in the X-Car Space article. It brings this vehicle to a dead halt from 100 kilometers per hour in just 35.4 meters.
Which is sports car territory.
What kind of hardware is tasked with reining in that kind of kinetic energy?
You are looking at a robust 6-piston front caliper braking system. It requires immense clamping force to dissipate that energy without instantly boiling the brake fluid.
Which would be terrifying.
Very. But the safety margins extend far beyond the calipers. The passive safety structure utilizes 2,000 megapascal hot-formed steel. Furthermore, the CTB, or cell-to-body architecture, integrates the blade battery directly into the chassis framework, significantly increasing the vehicle's overall torsional rigidity.
And the roof strength.
The engineers designed the roof structure to withstand a 25-ton truck rollover event.
Which is comforting should you ever find yourself suddenly underneath a fully loaded freight train.
Quite. Moving from passive to active safety, the vehicle is governed by the God's IB system.
What a name. God's IB.
Right. It relies on an NVIDIA Orin X processor delivering 254 TOPS. That's tera operations per second of compute power.
For context, that is a massive amount of processing overhead.
Yeah.
It's roughly equivalent to the neural processing power found in standard autonomous trucking applications.
Exactly. It ensures the car has the bandwidth to process the data feed from one LiDAR unit, 12 high-definition cameras, 5mm wave radars, and 12 ultrasonic sensors.
When Wheelsboy tested the Navigate on autopilot, in heavy, chaotic city traffic filled with unpredictable scooters and pedestrians, the system proved to be rock-steady and appropriately cautious, rather than aggressively erratic.
Which is exactly what you want when you hand control over to a computer.
So we have established it is a 760-plus horsepower tank that pirouettes like a ballerina, stops on a dime, and effectively drives itself through rush hour. Let's move inside because the interior is heavily pushed in the marketing materials as the digital palace.
And looking at the interior pan shots from the right in place, you can see why.
You are met with a 10.25-inch driver display. The center console holds a 17.3-inch screen that rotates from landscape to portrait mode. The front passenger has a dedicated 13.2-inch entertainment screen. Rear passengers get a 17.5-inch screen folding down from the ceiling, and the driver stares through a 50-inch augmented reality heads-up display.
If by palace they mean a brightly lit Best Buy display aisle, then yes, it is a digital palace.
Screen overload.
Totally. But we have to introduce some brutal honesty regarding this user interface. All of this digital real estate runs on a chip developed in-house by BYD.
And that's where the problem is.
Yes. Reviewers across our sources noted a distinct technology lag here. The BYD silicon simply does not keep up with the ultra-fluid, hyper-responsive Snapdragon 8295 processors or the Huawei Harmony OS chips found in rival Chinese SUVs like the AITO M8.
When you are forcing a user to interact with screens for nearly every vehicle function, even a microstutter or a half-second delay in pulling up the climate controls becomes deeply irritating.
It is a crucial point for a vehicle leaning so heavily on its tech.
But the physical comfort features are just as excessive as the screens. You get two refrigerators, one in the center console for the front, and a larger one that mechanically ejects outward for the back rows.
Because one fridge is simply never enough.
Obviously. And getting into the vehicle is a gimmick in itself. You can use an NFC card, your smartphone, or you can just stand outside, look at the exterior camera, and give it a thumbs-up gesture to command the electric doors to pop open.
A literal thumbs up to your car.
Once inside, stepping on the brake pedal automatically pulls the driver's door shut.
The standout software feature, however, is the voice assistant, which integrates DeepSeek AI. The system's microphones actively monitor the cabin and can detect the vocal frequency of a child.
This part is fascinating.
When a child's voice issues a command, the vehicle responds in two ways. First, it instantly locks out physical commands that pose a safety risk, meaning a toddler cannot successfully instruct the car to roll down the windows or open the sunroof on the highway.
A brilliant feature for any parent who has ever endured a road trip with a curious 3-year-old.
Certainly. But the second response is where the generative AI steps in. It actively alters its conversational tone and vocabulary.
Right, it adapts to the audience.
If a child asks the assistant, "Why are plants green?" the AI avoids delivering a dense, college-level biology lecture on chlorophyll and photosynthesis. Instead, it generates simple visualizations on the rear screens and explains the concept using language tailored for a 5-year-old.
It is a highly sophisticated integration of AI that actually serves a practical, everyday purpose.
Speaking of practicality, or the complete lack thereof, we have to talk about the drone.
Oh, the drone. The hook that brought us here.
The N8L offers an optional DJI drone system integrated directly into the roof. It adds about 170 millimeters to the overall height of the vehicle.
This pod houses a custom DJI drone that you can launch, fly, and land entirely through the center touchscreen.
I really have to question the everyday utility of this feature.
You don't see yourself using it on the morning commute.
Imagine sitting in dense gridlock traffic on a major interstate and deciding to deploy your roof-mounted drone to investigate the holdup. The regulatory violations, the airspace restrictions, and the insurance liabilities of launching an aircraft over public roadways are mind-boggling.
It's a lawyer's worst nightmare.
It is purely an electronic parlor trick.
It may be a parlor trick in the city, but it is an undeniable flex for the outdoor enthusiast. If you take this SUV up a mountain trail, having an integrated drone autonomously follow the car and capture cinematic sweeping footage of your drive.
Without you having to touch a remote controller.
Exactly. Without touching a controller, it's undeniably cool.
For the 1% of buyers who actually take their luxury SUVs off-road, perhaps. But let's look past the drones and the rotating screens and evaluate the actual pros and cons of living with the N8L.
Reviewers across the board were highly complimentary of the ride quality. Wheelsboy and Auto and Moto heavily praised the suspension architecture.
It utilizes a double wishbone front and a 5-link rear setup paired with air suspension.
But the real magic is the camera mounted at the top of the windshield. It actively scans the topography of the road ahead, mapping potholes and speed bumps, and instantly adjusts the individual dampers before the wheels even make contact.
That kind of proactive damping is a feature historically reserved for ultra-luxury sedans like the Mercedes S-Class, not a mid-tier family SUV.
The noise, vibration, and harshness refinement in the cabin is superb. It isolates the passengers beautifully.
Yet, it is not without compromises. Let's examine the physical space. The N8L is slightly smaller than its older sibling, the N9.
Right, the packaging is different.
While the first and second rows offer immense space, complete with heated, ventilated, and massaging captain's chairs, the third row tells a different story.
Yes, the reviewer from the Ride and Place physically climbed into the back, while BYD thoughtfully included a 220-volt AC plug-in cup holders. The legroom and headroom are notably cramped for average-sized adults.
If your daily routine involves hauling 6 tall adults, this will feel like a penalty box compared to a full-size American SUV.
Furthermore, we must discuss the interior materials. Despite the aggressive luxury marketing pitch, the seats in the N8L are wrapped in faux leather, stepping down from the genuine leather available in the N9.
It is a very soft, highly perforated synthetic material.
But for traditional luxury buyers who base their purchasing decisions on the tactile feel and distinct smell of authentic cowhide, faux leather in a flagship-tier vehicle is often a hard line they will not cross.
And the exterior styling, specifically their rear profile, has drawn significant criticism.
The front fascia is sleek, featuring sharp, modern daytime running lights. But the rear,
While the Wheels Boy reviewer was quite blunt.
very blunt. He dubbed the protruding, heavy rear tailgate design the Power Beak.
The Power Beak. It is highly polarizing, it looks blocky, somewhat cumbersome, and entirely at odds with the aerodynamic front end.
We also need to highlight a glaring contradiction regarding the vehicle's charging capabilities, something that potential buyers need to be acutely aware of.
When navigating Chinese automotive spec sheets, the translation and technical details can often be murky.
Exactly. Let's lay out the contradiction for you. In the hands-on video from the Ride and Place, the reviewer opens the charging port door on the right side of the N8L and clearly points to both a DC fast charging port and an AC slow charging port.
Yet, the deep dive technical article from XCarSpace explicitly states that while AC slow charging takes 7 to 8 hours, DC fast charging is, quoting directly from their text, not supported due to the limitations of the specific PHEV architecture used in this trim.
So which is the truth? Can you plug this 3-ton machine into a DC fast charger at a highway rest stop, or are you entirely dependent on burning gasoline once the blade battery depletes on a long trip?
It's a massive open question.
The fact that top-tier reviewers and detailed technical breakdowns are directly contradicting each other on a fundamental piece of hardware demonstrates how confusing this rapid release cycle is for the consumer.
It also segues perfectly into the broader market reality for you as a buyer. We have spent this time analyzing a 760 horsepower, pirouetting luxury SUV equipped with proactive air suspension and generative AI, all for roughly $42,000.
But the reality is, if you live in the West, you cannot walk into a dealership and buy one.
This is very much forbidden fruit at the moment.
Indeed. If you are a buyer in the United States, you are facing a 27.5% tariff on Chinese manufactured vehicles right out of the gate.
That is before you even address the insurmountable hurdles of EPA emissions certifications, DOT safety standard compliance, and the absolute non-existence of a domestic dealer or warranty support network.
In Europe, the situation is similarly hostile, with ongoing anti-subsidy investigations by the EU and strict Euro NCIP crash testing requirements that the N8L has yet to clear.
As the XCarSpace analysis pointed out, attempting to individually import one of these through gray market channels would incur so many fees and modifications that the $42,000 price advantage would be entirely obliterated.
So, synthesizing all this data, what is the verdict? The consensus across our sources is clear. The BYD Denza N8L, despite the faux leather, the cramped third row, and the polarizing Power Beak styling, is an extraordinary value proposition.
Reviewers generally frame it as a Tahoe killer.
It serves as hard proof that luxury, staggering performance, and cutting-edge digital integration no longer strictly require a legacy European hood ornament or a six-figure price tag.
The broader takeaway is that it serves as a massive wake-up call to legacy automakers. For decades, those brands have relied heavily on prestige pricing, extracting a massive premium based largely on brand heritage.
The badge on the grill.
Exactly. The N8L proves that the technological gap has not merely closed. In specialized areas like battery integration and extreme powertrain architecture, BYD has taken a decisive lead.
When a consumer realizes they can acquire double the horsepower, superior suspension technology, and greater efficiency for half the price of a legacy vehicle, brand loyalty faces an unprecedented test.
The value is just too hard to ignore.
Which leads me to a final, slightly provocative thought I want to leave you with today, building on that DeepSeek AI integration we discussed.
The child mode features.
Right. We noted how impressive it is that the vehicle's microphones constantly monitor the cabin, actively detecting the vocal frequency of a toddler to adjust its generative AI responses. But think about the data implications of that feature.
It's a huge privacy question.
If the car is always listening, always analyzing the pitch and tone of your child's voice to feed a highly advanced AI model, where exactly is that audio data going?
Is it processed locally on that slightly laggy BYD chip, or is it being beamed back to a server to train future generative models?
We scrutinize the data privacy of our smartphones and smart speakers endlessly. But as our vehicles transform into data-harvesting digital palaces, it raises a crucial question. Who actually owns the conversations happening in your backseat?
It is something to mull over the next time you marvel at an AI explaining photosynthesis to your kids on the highway.
We are treating cars more and more like smartphones on wheels. But a smartphone feels obsolete after just 4 or 5 years. With screens dominating the dashboard and AI heavily integrated into the driving experience, what happens to the resale value and usability of a digital palace a decade from now?
Will it age like a fine luxury classic or end up as electronic e-waste in the driveway?
The intersection of automotive convenience and data privacy, along with digital obsolescence, is going to be the next major battleground for the industry. Well, that is all the time we have for today. Keep wondering, keep questioning, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.